Here we are. It's 6 o'clock here in Arizona, which means it's 6 o'clock on the West Coast and it's 9 o'clock on the East Coast or wherever you may be in this live world. And this is our October 30th program. So, welcome everybody. Glad that you're here tonight. So, what you could do, folks, okay, thank you for all of you, those that are already uh, tuning in and giving me some comments on Facebook that everything is sounding good. Thank you very much. I got that. So we're ready to go. Well, no, don't want to do that yet. Okay, there we are. Okay, so now on the program, first of all, let me just give a few updates. Again, the Seattle workshop is this coming Saturday, and there's still always plenty of seats that are available. And we always enjoy having anybody there that can show up and you can come along. And all you do is, again, you go to my website, thesedonaconnection.com, you scroll down and you click on, the workshop registration page, and it gives you all the information there. And, the cost, if you come as an individual, is $129 for the whole day. If you come two or more together, I charge you $99 each. And then I allow to have what is called scholarship rates. For those, if that may be a tight amount, all you need to do is send me an email saying you want to have a scholarship rate. And as of now, folks, we got plenty of room. So anybody who requests that, I will honor that and give that. And that is this coming Saturday, November 2nd in Seattle. It's at the Seattle Airport Hilton Hotel. And the address and the map, again, is on the website. Then, 2 weeks after that, November 16th, we're going to be in Baltimore. And I'll be at the BWI, the Baltimore Washington International Airport Hilton Hotel. And that information is on the website as well. And so we have that one there. And then 3 weeks after that, we're going to be in Orlando. So that's what we got coming up with workshops. Well, now, I've been announcing that my my brokers have been saying that there was a high probability that we would start seeing movement progress the process around the end of the year. Now, normally I always get monthly updates from them around the 25th to the 26th, and I haven't had anything yet. And here we are at the 30th. So I don't know what's going on with that, but that might be a good sign that something is developing and they're wanting to give some firm, complete answers. But as of now, that is what we have, is that we are being told probability that the payout process will be starting around the end of the year. So now, on the program tonight, I want to talk about something that's been developing in contrast to what's happening with the United States and our economy. The reality is, folks, the United States economy is not doing very well. On the surface, everything looks good. And that's because the Khazarian mafia, the cabal, have that ability to manipulate what happens in the markets. But just recently, there's been some downside saying that jobs postings have dramatically been dropping. Some companies are massively starting to lay off people. The US dollar is basically in a situation where it's been hyperinflated, and that's what's creating a lot of this inflation. Because, see, the Federal Reserve, which is not a government agency, has the ability to print up $1 trillion anytime they want to and just throw it out there into the economy, and it has nothing to back it up, and that's what creates the inflation. But what it's also done, it's made that the US dollar has become unstable. Now, the US dollar is what is called the world's reserve currency, but there's a very high probability that might be ending. And it could be replaced with what is called, the name they're using as of now is called the BRIC bucks. Now, the BRICS is a coalition of countries, BRICS, Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, that came together and formed a coalition to basically move against or come against or compete with the US dollar. And what's been happening is there are now I am told, over 120 countries around the world that are starting to line up with the BRICS countries because they are tired of the absolute dominance of the United States dollar and how it dominates the global economy and what it's been doing because it's run by the cabal. They keep themselves strong and they create all these billionaires in the process, keeping the vast majority of a lot of the countries in a lower economic status. But what's happening now is as a lot of the world is progressing, and this has really happened, I think, personally, with the advent of the internet, the communication has come available where these countries are improving and their economies are improving, and they're now able to directly compete with the United States. So, what I want to do, I want to share with you a report. And now this is going to be about 16 minutes long, but it actually, the whole thing is about 48 minutes long, but obviously I don't want to play a 48-minute video. But let's go ahead and I'm going to play this program here tonight. Okay? Now, how is the sound working here? We should be getting some...
The fate of America is now in the hands of 5 powerful men. On the 22nd of October, 2024, these 5 men will meet in a secret location in Kazan, Russia. The weight of the 21st century will be on their shoulders.
Now,
make no mistake, it's America's judgment day. But here's the thing. History often repeats itself in startling ways. It's repeating itself again.
I will give a report
when these kinds of international meetings happen. Empires are toppled, currencies are replaced, standards of living for average citizens are destroyed. It's a hot, humid day in New Hampshire. The year is 1944, and Bretton Woods is a continent away from the bombs and carnage of World War II. Walking to the meeting, Lord John Maynard Keynes gripped his top hat in sweaty hands. In an hour, Lord Keynes will meet with U.S. Treasury Secretary Henry Morgenthau, along with representatives from 11 other nations. Over the next few days, they will decide the fate of the world. Flash forward a few years, and the British pound was finished as the world's reserve currency. Britain's vast monetary power was replaced. The British Empire was done. Immediately after, your average Briton couldn't even buy a decent loaf of bread thanks to food rationing. Clothing, gasoline, sugar, even bars of soap were rationed. It was said the sun never set on the British Empire, until it did. The standard of living of your average Englishman was ruined for decades. The new king of the world was King Dollar. The US dollar became the reserve currency of the world. And so it's been as long as we've been alive. But here's why I'm talking to you right now. Very soon, the ultimate fate of King Dollar will be in the hands of 5 powerful men at another secret meeting. I'll reveal the identities of these 5 biggest enemies of America in exactly 7 minutes. What could be the consequences of their decision? Let's jump again to history and find out. It's 251 AD, and Rome was on top of the world. The Roman Empire built 50,000 roads, an unbeatable military machine, and vast trading networks. It ruled over 130 million people and covered 1.5 million square miles. An official from the treasury hiked up his toga and picked up speed. He's on the way to meet with Emperor Trajan Decius. Unfortunately, he had bad news. Rome's currency, the denarius, must be devalued yet again. By now, the denarius only contains 0.5% of the silver of the original currency. Prices across the empire have skyrocketed 1,000%. In the near future, the emperor will be slain in battle with barbarians. Hyperinflation, soaring taxes, and worthless money will result in civil war. Faster than anyone could imagine, Rome's monetary power was over. The destruction of Rome's money led to the destruction of its empire. Very soon, America could face the same fate. What will it take to push the dollar into the proverbial dustbin? Well, it could all be decided at this October meeting. It's already happened in history, over and over. It's June 15, Vienna, Austria. In a hushed, cramped room, representatives of the great powers were about to make a decision to change the fate of the world. For decades, the world's leading power had been France. Under a young general, Napoleon Bonaparte, France had military control of Germany, Italy, Spain, and Poland. With a stroke of a pen, the powerful men gathered at the Congress of Vienna eliminated Napoleon's empire, as well as France's grip on global economic power. In a single meeting, France was eliminated as a world economic power. To quote billionaire hedge fund manager and economic historian Ray Dalio, the Congress of Vienna re-engineered the debt, monetary, and geopolitical systems and created a new beginning as laid out in the Treaty of Paris. That set the stage for Great Britain's 100-year-long imperial century. during which Great Britain became the unrivaled world power. The British pound became the world's dominant currency. I hope you see. It didn't matter how powerful a military France had. It didn't matter that France was the top dog on the world stage and had been for a generation or more. It didn't matter how powerful France's money was. Their fate wasn't in their hands anymore. In one meeting, everything changed. I'm contacting you today with a dire warning. History is repeating itself yet again. America will soon be facing its own judgment day. 5 powerful men are meeting to discuss our fate. And I'll also reveal the dire consequences of their decision. At the very least, I believe it's entirely certain the dollar will soon be dethroned and replaced. And this, my friend, is a dagger aimed at your wealth and your way of life. Your money, your job, your investments, even your physical safety could be at risk. The wild inflation...
In May, inflation hit 8.6%, the highest in 40 years.
And high interest rates.
And the U.S. is bracing for a 10th consecutive interest rate hike as the country tries to fight off inflation.
Bank failures.
I'm sure there will be bank failures.
And layoffs we are already seeing.
UPS announced Tuesday it will lay off 12,000 employees.
Are only the start. That pit of fear you are feeling when it comes to America's future, you're not alone. We all feel it. History is repeating. It doesn't matter who ends up president after the next election. It's too late to reverse course now. At best, we will see massive money printing and inflation. At worst, we will see the collapse of the American empire and of our standard of living. It's urgent you take action now. In this short message, I'm going to help you decide what to do to protect yourself and even get rich from this coming disaster, because something is rotten in our financial system. It's the terrible truth everyone knows. But nobody in our leadership, Democrats and Republicans, will speak out against what's really going on. Our government and our central bankers are creating an orgy of money printing and spending without sign of stopping. You've seen it in your weekly grocery run, every time you go out to eat in a restaurant, and in every other bill, from your auto insurance to electricity. The national debt is now growing even faster than the overall economy. In fact, the national debt is rising by $1 trillion every 100 days. That's $100 billion a day. Meanwhile, Biden's inflationary policies have skyrocketed consumer prices over 20%. Our financial system is out of control. This situation puts America's entire retirement system and Social Security at dire risk, and Kamala Harris is already talking about big increases in taxes. In fact, capital gains taxes could exceed 50% in 11 states. But hold on, because what I'm going to share next is the reason why I made this video. All the internal economic problems I just described are things happening right now. I'm certain you agree these existing problems are extremely dangerous for our economy and your wealth. Yet what happens after these 5 powerful men meet in Russia in October? Our economic situation will become even worse than you can imagine. I believe the result of this meeting will be like throwing gasoline on a bonfire. With a single stroke of a pen, something could be triggered we've never once experienced in our lifetimes. Investors and governments around the world could suddenly decide the US dollar is no longer the safe haven everyone assumed it was. They'll dump their US dollars. And you know what else? Nearly half the world will replace the dollar with something else. This isn't some gloom and doom prediction. This is history happening. No politician or election can stop it. The die is already cast. I believe that once the meeting is adjourned, it's nearly certain the US dollar will be finished as the world's reserve currency. How do I know all this? Where's the proof? I'm glad you asked. Despite what it seems, markets do not move totally at random. They move because somebody decides something. People move markets, and powerful people move markets powerfully. Wouldn't you like to know about those actions in advance? We would. And that's why we created the most sophisticated high-level network in the world to bring you this information before it becomes common knowledge. My name is Addison Wiggin. I'm an American writer, publisher, and filmmaker. I host a YouTube show called The Wiggin Sessions, covering financial markets, the economy, and politics for thousands of subscribers across the world. But more than that, I'm a lifetime member of the Gray Swan investment fraternity, with connections across 16 countries and offices in Baltimore, Paris, London, and Melbourne. For nearly a century, our research firm has kept its heritage of making bold, outrageous predictions. Sometimes we're wrong, but on the big calls, we're often right. We predicted the fall of communism and the collapse of the Soviet Union a decade before it happened. We predicted the crash of the U.S. housing market as early as 2004, a full 4 years before it happened in 2008. We were already covering Bitcoin in 2011 when you could have bought a single Bitcoin for just $1. Since then, Bitcoin has gone up to $60,000. We also predicted Brexit, President Trump winning in 2016, and the COVID pandemic and 2020 riots, months before it happened. With all these forecasts, the so-called experts laughed at us. They were wrong. We were right. What is our latest forecast? It's the one I'm sharing with you right now. Based on my sources around the world, a group of 5 powerful men will be plotting the fate of the US dollar. At this meeting, these powerful leaders could decide to kick the dollar to the curb and replace it with a brand new global currency. Of course, you're wondering, who the hell are these 5 men and what are they really up to? Well, it's time to meet the new world order. According to our sources, on October 22nd, 2024, Vladimir Putin is hosting a special meeting in Kazan, Russia. In addition to Putin, 4 other individuals will likely be attending. Lula da Silva, President of Brazil; Drupadi Murmu, President of India; Cyril Ramaphosa, President of South Africa; and Xi Jinping, President of China and General Secretary of the Chinese Communist Party. These 5 individuals, if you don't know, represent the BRICS alliance. What is the BRICS? The BRICS is a geopolitical alliance between Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. And this BRICS alliance is expanding at an alarming rate. In fact, earlier this year, the BRICS alliance was joined by Egypt, Ethiopia, and the United Arab Emirates. And even more dangerous for America, the hostile regime of Iran recently joined, as well as Saudi Arabia, our largest oil trading partner. Combined, the BRICS members encompass about 30% of the world's land surface and 45% of the global population, meaning they already control nearly half the population of the planet. Economically, the BRICS already control nearly 32% of the world's GDP, according to the Bank of France. That's bigger than the combined GDP of the United States, Canada, Japan, United Kingdom, Germany, France, and Italy. Look at this map and you can see for yourself how the world is splitting up. But it gets much worse, because the BRICS is expected to get much bigger, starting as soon as this October meeting. According to a Reuters report, over 40 more countries have expressed interest in joining the alliance, which means instead of an alliance of 5 nations, America could soon be facing a new hostile economic power bloc of nearly 50 nations. Based on our sources, the outcome of this October meeting could lead to something that directly affects the fate of every American, starting as soon as next year. The creation of a brand new global currency system which could soon rival and even crush the US dollar around the world. Let's call this new monetary system BRICS bucks. Keep in mind, the name and the specific date for the rollout of this new currency system likely hasn't been decided yet. And really, it's not important what name they give this new currency. What is important is what it will represent. This new BRICS bucks money could be a single unified currency controlled by the BRICS alliance, or it could be a basket of currencies, including the Russian ruble and Chinese yuan, unified into a single powerful new monetary regime. Either way, when it comes, BRICS bucks will be Judgment Day on the global power of the US dollar. Remember, the only way the US government is able to borrow $1 trillion every 100 days is because the US dollar is currently the world's reserve currency. Because the dollar is the world's reserve currency, the US can safely borrow money from every other country in the world. After all, anyone lending money to the US right now is guaranteed to get a return in US dollars. But let's now say the US dollar loses its status as the global reserve currency. Let's say almost half the world says, no thanks, we won't lend you squat anymore because we'd rather get paid back in our own BRICS bucks. If that happens, history will repeat, just like it did with the British pound in the 1940s. The Roman denarius in the 200s, the French franc in the 1800s, the German Reichsmark in the 1930s, the Russian ruble in the 1990s, all these currencies were crushed, and so were the standards of living of the nations which relied on them. At the same time, in the next 18 months, more money will be made and lost than ever before in history. In a minute, I will tell you how. But before you decide if I'm right about this forecast or full of it, let's hear some validation from the horse's mouth. At the last BRICS summit meeting in South Africa, Vladimir Putin delivered a very direct message in a video address to the assembled leaders. In the video, Putin said the following.
Объективный, необратимый процесс дедоларизации наших хозяйственных связей.
The objective, irreversible process of de-dollarization of our economic ties is gaining momentum. And Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva, president of Brazil, said pretty much the same thing. In another Reuters story about last year's summit, Brazil's president called on the BRICS nations to create a common currency for trade and investment between each other as a means of reducing their vulnerability to dollar exchange rate fluctuations. A BRICS currency increases our payment options and reduces our vulnerabilities, he told the summit. And if that isn't clear enough for you, consider this March report from Fox News. The BRICS bloc of countries led by China and Russia are moving ahead with their efforts to move away from the US dollar with an announcement that they plan to create a payment system based on blockchain. According to Kremlin aide Yuri Ushakov, we believe that creating an independent BRICS payment system is an important goal for the future, which would be based on state-of-the-art tools such as digital technologies and blockchain, Ushakov said. So there you go. A year ago, Putin and the BRICS were already plotting their intentions to dump the dollar. They are already announcing plans to create their own payment system. Of course, you might be wondering if the BRICS plan to break away from the US dollar. Wouldn't the American government try to stop it? I sincerely doubt it, because based on the facts, de-dollarization is inevitable. We have an old saying around the Gray Swan investment fraternity: long before you hit infinity, you go broke. It should be common sense. Debt simply cannot be infinite. Assuming you can borrow infinite amounts of money violates the very laws of economics, physics, and the universe. Try to break this law, and you are unable to even pay the interest on your debt. Do this long enough, and nobody will lend you money anymore. Well, that's what happens to people like you and me. If you're the government, you have another choice. You can print money to get out of your fix. Then inflation takes off, interest rates take off, and the dollar becomes worthless. I've been watching this for years. It was the subject of my best-selling book, The Empire of Debt, now in its 3rd edition, as well as in my New York Times bestseller, Demise of the Dollar, and the topic of my award-winning Oscar shortlisted documentary, IOUSA. Right now, according to the St. Louis Federal Reserve Bank, the gross national income, or the total income of all Americans, is only around $26 trillion. Which means even if they increase taxes to 100% on every American taxpayer, there still would not be enough money to pay it back. Our debt-fueled economic system already lives in a house of cards. At this moment, the U.S. debt-to-GDP ratio stands at 123%, according to the International Monetary Fund. This means America holds 23% more debt than it will ever produce this year. If you and I were this far in the hole with either our business or personal finances, our situation would be called bankruptcy.
Okay, that's where I wanted to end the video because I didn't want to continue going on and on. But it lays out the scenario of the desperate situation of what's happening for us here with our US dollar. Now, that October 22nd meeting, now this video was done about a week prior to that. What Putin did announce at that meeting, which was about a week ago, is that they are not basically going to create the BRICS bucks yet, but it is on the way. It's only a matter of time before that happens. And when the BRICS replaces the currency and that becomes the world's reserve currency, the United States won't be able to borrow money anymore. And that means our economy is just going to totally fall apart, just as it happened in all of those other countries, how it happened with Rome, France, Great Britain, Italy, Germany, and Russia. Their currencies collapsed, and basically what that means is it doesn't carry the weight that it does. Now, our currency will still be around because we still have to have something to buy things and pay our bills, but what it means is inflation takes off. You think we've seen inflation now? If the dollar gets replaced with the world's reserve currency, we haven't even come close to seeing the end of inflation. Now, that's why I would encourage you, if you're watching this video, and if you're not in our currency exchange program, I would encourage you to do that. You can go to my website, thesedonaconnection.com. You can click on the workshop video content, and that will basically explain to you this currency exchange program that we have going on. And I'm going to express now what is just my opinion. I think they might be waiting for the release of these funds before they make the shift over to the currency. It could be this is all taking place together. Now remember, this currency exchange program is a joint operation with the White Hats between the United States and China. China has already said they're ready to release the funds, and the United States has been saying not yet. But the word we are getting, it could be happening potentially, probably by the end of the year. Now this process is going to take a couple months to unfold. So, but it's important to know that right now, there's no limits about how much you can come into the currency exchange with this process, okay? So that's what I wanted to talk about that. And I want to mention one other thing. I've been encouraging you in programs, if you have discretionary money, which means it's not the money you need to live on, to pay your bills, etc., and stuff like that, sitting in a bank account, I've encouraged you to get it out of a bank and put it into something else that is more solid and stable. Cryptocurrencies are fine if you watch it on a regular basis. It's just because they're very volatile. But the report that I got is today, Bitcoin is now back up over the $70,000 a coin value. And it's right at the point of hitting its very highest point. And a lot of economists are projecting that Bitcoin is going to go up to $100,000 to $120,000 within the next 6 to 8 months. Okay, that's one option. The other is to buy bonds. Bank bonds are a safe place because if banks start to go under, they are always obligated to first pay the bonds before they pay back the bank accounts if a bank goes under. Also, government bonds are still very safe. Yes, there'll be inflation, but the issue is the bank accounts are not what's safe. Ben Fulford has been reporting that there are a number of banks that are collapsing and going under and going bankrupt, but we're not hearing about it in the mainstream news because if the mainstream news starts reporting it, it could create absolute chaos, panic, a run on the banks, and create some real problem. Now, a question just came up. Are the dong to exchange for US dollars? Of course they are. What else are they going to exchange into? I don't do foreign currencies. It will exchange with US dollars, but once it's in your account, what you do with it is your choice. Now, what I have done, and I've shared this with you in the past, I've been purchasing a lot of physical silver. Silver is up around 68% since early February. You heard me. That means in about 8 months, it's gone up about 68%. It's going up 6 to 9% per month. Gold just hit a new all-time high. Now, personally, what I do, I don't buy gold stocks or gold, other futures or anything like that. I buy silver and I buy the actual physical bar. So I've got something that's hard and physical that I can actually then trade in and as it becomes and it increases in its value. So those are the things that I wanted to share basically around what's happening with the economy. Now I want to make a shift. I want to talk about what the election that's coming up here next week. Now, as reported in this video, it doesn't really matter whether it's going to be Trump or Harris as the new president around this economic issue because we're already too far down the road. But there's a number of different people and even some really good what I call intuitives that are reporting there's going to be a lot of chaos around the election. We're going to see basically chaotic action. We're going to see basically groups, organizations that are going to be coming together with violence, disruption, with basically protest, etc., and stuff like that, with the result of the election that's coming out. Now, I'm going to read to you part of a report that comes from a lady that's a wonderful, what I call astrologer, Joni Patri, P-A-T-R-I. She's very different how she reports this, and she's been very, very good. I have been following her for a number of years. I love getting her reports every month, and she's very good in what she has to say. This is what she just put out about 3 weeks ago. And I'm going to read to you some of her report called Mars, the planet Mars, and the elections based on astrology. But before I do that, let me make a comment about astrology. Now, some people wonder, what is this? You got to be kidding me. You have to understand astrology is one of the oldest what they call pseudosciences or sciences ever in the history of humanity. And what is astrology? The planets carry energy, and this energy has the ability to influence what happens in our environment. And what I call astrology, it's basically, I call it, it's not necessarily pure predictions, but it's what I call a energy weather report. Remember, weather people project and predict the weather based on certain events taking place. And we'll go to the news and we'll watch the weather reports, and they are projecting what the weather is going to do. Well, good astrologers are projecting what is going to happen in some global or personal events based on the energy projections, how the energy is influencing the issues around them, because we live in a world where everything is energy, and this energy determines what we experience and the events that go on around us. Now, let me read to you from some of her report. Astrologically, the Mars transit reveals the angry trends of where the elections are taking us. Mars is the planet of conflict, anger, fighting, aggression, and war, but it also rules competition, ambition, sports, and energy. Mars is now in the sign of Cancer, the worst sign it can be in. When Mars is in Cancer, it tends to express the more negative qualities of Mars, which are anger and war. On November 3rd, right before the U.S. elections, Mars and Pluto will oppose each other at 5 degrees Cancer and Capricorn. This combination can be terribly violent. Pluto is extreme devastation, and Mars is anger and attacks. Putting those two planets in opposition is extremely bad, and it affects the entire planet, i.e. the entire world. Furthermore, Mars is slowing down to turn retrograde early December 7th, intensifying the negative qualities of Mars. Now, Mars and the economy. In the U.S. chart, Mars will be in the 8th house transiting over natal Mercury, approaching natal Rahu. The 8th house pertains to big government money, deep dark secrets, corruption, and even death. Therefore, many unknown secrets will be revealed. This could also indicate a huge problem with the economy. After the elections, there will be a giant shift for the worse in the U.S. economy. That's what she said. After the elections, there will be a giant shift for the worse in the U.S. economy, and that could line up with the new BRICS bucks. Okay, now let me keep going here. Now, Mercury and the election aftermath. Mercury will be slowing down as it turns retrograde November 25th. This is a grandanta degree, meaning there will be intense and out-of-control emotions globally. Intense and out-of-control emotions globally. Prior to this, on November 18th, Mercury and Jupiter will oppose each other. This may mean the results of the elections could be finalized at this time, and there will be a lot of mistrust and fighting over the results. There will be a huge divide and severe violence in the U.S. in November and December. On top of that, there will be war breaking out globally, and everything is occurring to bring the truth out. The corruption in the world and the explosive events will begin the healing. I firmly believe the world is coming to a much better place. Did you hear that? She firmly believes, because see, chaos creates confusion, and in the midst of the chaos, people rise up, take notice, and start moving to fix the problems. So what she is basically saying, this chaotic event, this disruption, the violence, has the ability to bring a lot of healing to the earth and bring a lot of the stuff out into the open that's been hidden. And she says, no matter what your political beliefs, this clearing is essential to bring a new world where truth and honesty prevail. The 24-degree marketing of Jupiter activates the natal Saturn in the 10th house of the U.S. chart, as well as Donald Trump's natal Uranus and Jupiter in his chart and J.D. Vance's natal moon. I believe this indicates they will be declared the winners of the presidential race by this time, and of course, all hell is going to begin to break out across the United States. There will be so much turmoil in the U.S. over this win for Donald Trump, so get ready. The walls are all going to be tumbling down, and this predicts so much radical change, chaos, and fighting. Now, let me read a little bit about some of her personal stuff. As you know, I've been predicting Trump will win the presidency for a long time based on his astrological chart, but another important indication must be added here. Right before the 2020 elections, I asked before I went to sleep one night who would win the president, and I had one of those very vivid dreams you cannot ever forget. In the dream, a very loud voice said, "Trump will be president." Whenever I have a dream this powerful and vivid, they are never wrong. So of course I thought it meant he would win the 2020 elections. He had Rahu in his 10th house at the time, which means that he can win. However, Rahu is very unpredictable since the nodes of the moon are the points where they have eclipses and the great indicators of change. It obviously isn't always a good thing, but I went with my dream, which was wrong. I thought my dreams like this were never wrong. Then one of my students reminded me recently of my past dream. I remember in the dream it said, "Trump will be president again." That's when I realized the dream was right. I just didn't imagine he would run again and win. This time Trump's astrological chart totally indicates a win. It shows transiting Jupiter in the 10th house of career and social standing in both Trump and J.D. Vance's chart, as they both have a Leo rising. The readjustment period and the shock this is going to instill in the U.S. and around the world will create incredible chaos and instability with riots and discord. The inauguration may have to be postponed, so many people will just not accept this outcome. The discord will continue through the time of transiting Mars, goes in and out of Cancer and Gemini until next June. So she is saying this discord and chaos is going to continue until next June. There will be many attempts on Trump's life, which goes to show how hated he is around the world. But as we go through the intense and pivotal time in humanity, there is a bright spot at the end of the tunnel. In October through December of next year, 2025, transiting Jupiter will station at this time of 0 degrees Cancer. This will begin to bring healing to both the U.S., both emotionally and economically, calming down all the anger. I think this means Trump survives since his natal Saturn is 0 degrees and Cancer is in his 12th house. In 2026, transiting Jupiter will go and stay in Cancer, bringing the United States back to peace, and healing will occur. So matter who your preference is politically, this will bring peace and healing to the world, because the sensitive and sore spots that Mars is activating now will be where the powerful healing energy of Jupiter transits. This also means there will be protection and security for everyone, and that families will come together and unite. Don't let the mass hysteria get to you during these times. Always look to the future, knowing we must go through this pivotal, chaotic time to get to the other side of healing and peace. The world will be a better place, and my prayer is always, may the best thing for our highest good happen now, and so it is. As I said, I've been listening and watching Joni Petrie for about a good 5 or 6 years now. And that is one of the most dominant reports I've ever seen her put out. But she acknowledges why and where and how the energy of all these planets brings all this together. And what it means is basically, I think starting next week, right after the day of the election, we're going to start seeing some chaotic events arising. It's very important that we don't fall into the negative energy of the chaos. I've shared with you many times in the programs, we live in a world that quantum physics shows us it's just a holographic illusion. We create our realities based on the energy that comes at us. So we get to choose. So as the chaos and the disruption starts to happen, you can react to it, you can get angry, you can get fearful, and you can let this low vibrational energy take over your life, or you can just stand back, watch it, and observe it. Keep your energy strong and high and rise above the drama. Let the drama be. Be an observer of the drama, not a participant in the drama. That keeps you strong and it keeps you focused. I've been working with this currency exchange now process for a little over 10 years. And you know what? Based on the reports that are coming out of my brokers and what Joni Petrie is saying, I think there's a very high probability that we're going to see the release of these funds coming in the midst of all this chaos towards the end of the year, because it makes sense. The release of these funds is designed to replace the dominant control of the Khazarian mafia, the cabal that runs the Federal Reserve System. And that system is probably going to get extremely chaotic, and the release of our funds is the start of the healing process of our finances, not only here in America, but around the world. Now, I've been told this exchange process is going to go on for some time. We're the ones that are getting to be the trailblazers. We are at the front end of this process. And I've also been sharing with you, once the process of the payout starts, it's very high probability they're not going to pay it out all at once, because it's too much money to be released into the economy all at one time. We will probably receive payments over a process of time. Now, I have absolutely no idea how long it will take and what it will be, but that's what we are hearing. Now, it's important to know that the Texas Process Office doesn't give me all the information. And there's a reason why. Is because I don't know anybody else that gets to talk about this openly on my radio program and in workshops like I do. I've shared with some of the others in the past. I was given this permission by the Dragon families, who were the original, they were the originators of the funds that's going to pay us. And they said that I was the one that they were allowing to start talking about this process. And I'm able to invite people to come in. But it's been very clear that I am not to promote myself outside of my workshops, this radio program, and my newsletters. Those are the only places that I get to talk about it. And so if people come in, they come in by word of mouth. It's because you are expressing and sharing that with other people. So if you have friends or family that you would like to be into this, and they're still maybe a little hesitant, have them go to my website, thesedonaconnection.com, and watch the workshop content videos. And then for as little as $62, they can purchase 1 million dong, and that's the currency that I use. And that dong is scheduled to pay out at $1.50 a dong. So basically their $62 will turn into $1.5 million over a processing period of time. Okay, so that's what I have on the program tonight. Blog Talk Radio wasn't working. For some reason, they said the program wasn't working. I have no idea why. So I'm not going to be able to take any calls in tonight. But I just want to say thank you very much for joining the program tonight. And hopefully we will see you next week. Alrighty, thanks a lot. Okay, bye-bye.